Hello, this is Dread, and in today's video topic, we're going to be doing another episode of the Hall of Fame. This time we have a repeat showing. This is going to be H2O's Explosive Trap Acid Flask Fire Conversion Blade Dancer this time around. Go ahead and introduce yourself, sir.
Hey, thanks, Dred. Yeah, so just a repeat from the 1.0 patch, which is a little bit of twist. Put in some Blade Dancer on. It feels a little bit better than the Falconer. Falconer has crazy amounts of damage, but there's nothing in the game that needs that amount of damage at this point. So the Blade Dancer offers a little bit more defensive capabilities and a little bit more mobility than I had last patch, which definitely helped for some of the pinnacle content they added this patch.
So this time, you want to walk me through what you leveled as and how you got to the character that you're doing now?
Yeah, so I actually just I leveled as Shadow Cascade with believe it or not, with the channeled ability where you spin around in a circle and throw out daggers. I was having a blast just taking my time leveling with that. But pretty much using explosive trap, acid flask once I got to empowered monos is it's just a lot more efficient and quicker to do. But I wanted to try something else out while I was leveling, and um, it basically is the same leveling guide from 1.0. Nothing really changed in the 1 to level 70 aspect of the build.
Perfect. So, do you want to explain what are the biggest changes that you've done with the build since last time around?
Yeah, so I took a lot less emphasis on the Falcon mana regen, hence without the whole Falcon aspect, and kind of just really went more into the mobility and kind of more defensive capabilities that Blade Dancer has. In the top end of the tree, there's a lot more like less damage taken at low health, less damage taken while moving around, like less damage over time, which is that's the real end game, right? Is damage over time kills you more in this game than anything else. And then really just a lot more of like a crit multi, and some more. There's an extra mana regen for the explosive traps. It helps it out, which is at the
So,
top
I'm
end
going
of
to
the tree.
stop you real quick here
Yeah.
because I'm having the gameplay over here on my screen and I'm watching it. Was that you just face tanking the super laser beam a little bit?
Yeah.
What was that?
So I'm pr- if I'm pretty sure that was bugged because it was showing it was going to the left and then he just flipped around like 180 on me. I don't even know how that happened. It was really weird. But yeah, I mean you can face tank a lot of stuff on uh, just the blade dancer defensive capabilities and being able to utilize some of the more invulnerable frames on what is it called, synchronized strike, as well as just the fact that you get silver shrouds from the smoke bomb. Really is a lot more efficient than like the falconer. Just feel like you kind of fall over comparatively.
so
But yeah, it's definitely more defensive.
so another thing I want to talk about. So for people who didn't watch the last video, how does the build work? Like, what are you doing here?
Yeah, so it truly can be just a one button build outside of Aberoth. You are just throwing as many explosive traps down, and then using the trebuchet, which basically flings out acid flasks. So every trap you put down is basically like a 100 times or 100% more damage because each trap is an extra acid flask. So you scale those up. The more traps you get, the more damage you get. So you can really pump out the amount of damage and amount of hits, which again is great for armor shred, and other just like on hit effects as well as ailments. You can throw as many ailments as possible on enemies.
All right, so we talked about this last time, and I'm sure we should probably talk about it again. What are the mandatory items to make the build feel good in endgame?
Yeah, so the truly only item that you need in this build is tier 6 and tier 7 mana rings. So uh, one tier 7 and one tier 6 will get you your acid flask to 0 mana along with the mana nodes in the tree. Uh, I just pretty much use a runic creation on whatever ring I get first for tier 7, and once you hit 0 mana cost in your Acid Flask, everything from there is smooth sailing, because that's actually where most of the mana is coming from, because each one of those explosive traps is also proccing, 6 more Acid Flasks. So that's the truly only necessary item that you need. I use the new Trader's Tongue just to cap out my crit super easy, because there's a lot. The Bladedancer has the note at the end of the tree, the non crits do less damage, but you also get that massive crit multiplier. So it was great, unique to add to the game. It worked out really well, and didn't have to really invest at all into crit chance at all because of it.
So you said that you updated your defenses, and I see that you have a lot more than you did last time playing the game.
Mhm.
Why did you feel like you needed to update the defenses?
I figured with the pinnacle content that they were adding, they were going to be a little bit more challenging. So that was the main reason why. Also, just it feels like a good rule of thumb to always have minimum 2,000 HP, but it's pretty easy to get some tier 6 or tier 7 like health in the build, and I actually had a lot drop for me this time, and then I bought a couple as well. But other than that, just it felt it already has so much damage just with the fact that every explosive trap adds basically doubling your damage, up to, I think I have like six or seven traps you can throw, and that's the reason why I don't need any more damage, so just go for more defenses.
So how are the nerfs to the Dusk charge node in Explosive
Yeah,
Trap?
right. And that's the only true patch notes that 11th Hour Games really hurt this build with, is the fact that you can't get 100 dust shrouds just from proccing the smoke traps. It's about anywhere between 5 and 10 you get now, so it still caps out your glancing blow, and has a decent amount of dodge. I just converted it all to glancing blow anyways, because it just wasn't worth having like 40% dodge chance. It just didn't seem worthwhile comparatively.
Yeah, so I see that you've adopted our Lord and Savior
Yeah.
Smoke Bomb Traversal.
Yes. So the cool interactions here with Bladedancer with the shadows is, with Smoke Bomb just generating shadows for you. You can basically jump, just keep running, and then as you throw your explosive traps, the shadows from way behind also throw them like 200 yards, like an NFL quarterback, and just throw them on the boss as well.
That's so
Uh,
funny.
I also did the same thing with the synchronized strike. Outside of it just being a basic like an ice block ability, being able to generate 5 shadows on command to basically pre put down traps under like bosses, is really strong, because those don't count towards the limit for your explosive traps. So you can kind of do that a couple times and get, it's almost kind of like Path of Exile. You can just throw a bunch of traps down before the boss even spawns. So in the Aberoth fight, that's what I actually did in the beginning to chunk them right away.
So specifically with the Aberoth fight, how did it like? How many tries did it take? Like, did you have to change your gear or anything to like deal with them? Like, how'd that feel?
I didn't actually have to change the gear really much for him. It was just learning the mechanics. So I did die a couple times to the first 2 times I died to the final slam, because I couldn't read one of the I didn't couldn't read that I needed to move out of the way. And then like the third time I died to because I forgot that the big aura comes out after he slams, and that killed me. So it took me like 3 tries, and then the fourth I got it. And it's pretty simple from there once you have the mobility, and kind of can just sit on top of him. It seems to be the strategy for this build.
So during the progression through the 10 harbingers, how did that feel? Like, how'd you like
Yeah,
the difference?
that was the absolute worst experience I've ever had last Epoch. I absolutely hated that. It's it itself is horrible. For the build, it was fine. It's pretty quick, just running through monos. But that the grind itself was pretty uh, mind-numbingly boring, just kind of going through that process. But overall, like the build itself had no problems. I just basically cruised through the entire monolith as fast as you
Did
can.
any of the harbingers give you any specific difficulty or anything that was like a little more sketchy?
No, not towards the end. Just as I was leveling. I mean, just learning what they did. But once you once you get enough health, and they basically just get perma stunned from all the explosive traps and acid flasks hitting them so many times that it's not really much of an issue. Once you get up into higher corruption, obviously it's a little bit different, but like the 300 corruption one, I don't think are easy to stun, and the same one with the Aberoth fight, you can't just like permanent stun them.
So, how would you rate your experience as this build for a starter? Like, do you think it was good? Was there times where you felt like it wasn't enough damage, or wasn't enough survivability, or like, of course, before the throwing mana cost rings, like, how did that all
Right.
feel?
Yeah. So you can really get by the kind of the rule of thumb that I've used is for the clustered explosives node in the tree. That's the biggest mana drain on you. You can really just get by with the trappas, which give you like the extra two, and that's really with a tier 5 mana ring. Even like tier 4, um, it's not going to cause you much issues. And basically, you just tack on a clustered explosives point, and then the second one, once you kind of have your mana regen or enough mana to basically deal with most of the boss in the game. So no, it's when talk about starter, I mean, if you wanna, you can go with just a tier 5 mana ring all the way up through like 200 corruption. That's what I didn't even get my tier 7 ring until I hit rank, I think it's 8 now in Merchants Guild. So like I didn't even have it for half of the Harbinger fights. So it can be a starter. I would just probably still level as like the Shadow daggers realistically until you kind of get that mana ring. But I leveled with Acid Flask, like I said, and then the Shadow Cascade spinning, and it was pretty easy just to go through the entire game.
So, now that since you're playing a build that interacts with it as much as my recent builds have been doing so, how does the change for boss DR and boss ward feel for you
Uh,
specifically?
yeah, I mean, I like the change. It's definitely more noticeable, and maybe that's just because it's more noticeable. It feels different. I like it personally. It's nice kind of to see the breakpoints, especially as they continue to add more bosses to the game. It'll be kind of cool to see what they do with that. Um, but yeah, I overall like the changes. I haven't noticed much in terms of like many bosses having that much more damage. It definitely in the early game felt like they took longer to kill, but I think that just might be by design from 11th hour games.
Perfect. Okay. Well, thank you for coming on H2O. Thank you for giving us another episode of the Trappist explosive trap fire acid flask build. I really enjoy seeing it every single time. I wish I had time to play it, but since you're playing it, might as well talk about your build instead.
Yep. Thanks, Red.
Thanks.